Today I'm going to demonstrate how to change the screen on an HP Pavilion 15-CD067CA. If you have to change a screen on this type of computer, you're in luck because it's one of the easier ones to change. Start by removing the bezel. It's relatively easy to do. There's basically you're going to use a very thin screwdriver and just pry it out all along, all around. It's relatively simple. I'm using the screwdriver I'm using is 3mm, but it doesn't matter as long as you get something very thin to get in there. You may want to use a pocket knife or something to get in there, and you just have to get in there. You may end up making a couple of small marks getting it in there. Just get in there, and it's just plastic latches that you can hear them come out. Actually, I've cheated a bit, so I've actually pre-started it, but just get them out. Now I got the screen from laptopscreen.com. They seem to have every type of screen known to man and a few that haven't been invented yet. Now this screen bezel here is held in place by these plastic clips, and there are also some double-faced tape holding it in place. And what I've done is I've actually pre-removed some of the double-faced tape. You can see traces of it here, and you may have to use a small knife to cut it away. There are 4 screws that hold the screen in place. This bezel is still attached at the bottom, so you can just let it stand here. There are 4 screws that have to be removed to take off the screen, and they are 1 in each corner. At the top there are 2 screws side by side, and you want the inner one. You just remove it. It's a Phillips screwdriver. I'm using number 0 Phillips screwdriver, and just take the screws out and put them someplace where they won't get lost, because obviously they're small and they tend to bounce around, and they will disappear on you if you're not careful. The 2 at the bottom, it's a bit of an angle to get at them, but you can just get them out. And I always put the screws in their respective positions so that they don't get mixed up. In this case, the 4 screws are the same, so it doesn't really matter if you mix them up, but I always prefer to err on the side of caution, because on some computers the screens are held in by different screws. Now here you can just take the screen out. There's a single connector at the bottom behind here, and the connector is held in place by basically a adhesive tape. So you can just take the screen off here, and using a small screwdriver or knife you can just peel back the tape. You can't really see it very well here, but I'll show it to you in a second. Now it's here in the corner, well, not in the corner, but at the bottom, and you peel it off, and once you peel it back, the connector comes off quite easily, and you take the old screen out, and now this screen's cracked, so it's no good for anybody. Here's the new screen I got. It's got a protective film on it, which you want to keep on until the very last instant. see everything's the same. You've got the same connector on it. So what you've got to do is, I found it very convenient to use the tape to help pull up the connector, and just reconnect it. It's not really hard to do. You just have to have a little bit of patience to get the connector in there correctly. You should try especially to be sure not to get it crooked. There are lots of computers that have screen bezels with all kinds of screws holding them in place, and it makes it very hard to change some of them. This one is, as I said, it's one of the easier ones. Just put some light down here and make sure that everything is good. Okay, so it looks pretty good. Looks like it's in there nicely. And because we've peeled off this tape, what we want to do is we want to just put more tape. I'm just taking a piece of packaging tape. And just put it here to hold everything together. Sort of make sure that the connector doesn't come out. At this point, what you want to do is power up the computer, make sure the screen is working. So there we go. The screen is working. So you can power it down. You want to just make sure that everything's working before you close everything up and then find out that it doesn't work. You just have to put back the 4 screws. As I said, this is an easy one. We're nearly done. Generally, when you work on a computer, you want to make sure to disconnect the power supply and remove the battery. On this particular computer, the battery does not remove. It's not removable. So obviously you can't remove it. So I'm just putting 4 screws in place. That's 3. There's the 4th one. Now, the bezel is held in place by plastic clips and also by, as I said, some double-faced tape. Now, you want to replace the double-faced tape, and what you don't want is the typical double-faced mounting tape that's a piece of foam with adhesive on both sides, and the reason for that is it takes space. So what I've used is, it's actually a carpet mounting tape, and it's way too wide, so I just took scissors and cut strips, and I put them here. You can see the strips that I put here, and all I've got to do now is remove the protective tape. Okay. Remove the protective tape here, and then just put it in place. There. Took out the protective tape and just the bezel back in place. When you're putting the tape, you have to be very sure not to cover this area where there's the camera and sensors, so LEDs. So you just push the bezel into place all around. Let's not forget to remove the protective film as your last step. Just remove the protective film. Just make sure everything is tight and back in place. You can look around the edges and see that it's any place where there's a gap. Just push it with your thumbs. Make sure everything is in place. And we're done. Turn on the screen, turn on the computer. It comes up, and there you have it.